One of the great finds of the modern era was made by a group of German archaeologists working in Iraq in early 2003. They found what they thought to be the long-lost tomb of the legendary King Gilgamesh, the main character of the earliest epic ever written by humans, the Epic of Gilgamesh, buried deep under the desert sands. Since Gilgamesh is represented in the epic as a 17-foot-tall giant who is a crossbreed between a regular person and a Mesopotamian deity, scholars have disagreed for ages as to whether he lived. Because of this, it was widely believed that the Gilgamesh tale was nothing more than an urban legend. That is until Jörg Fassbinder and his team of archaeologists used cutting-edge technology to see down into the earth and found a whole ancient city under the desert. The city was remarkably built out exactly as the city of Uruk, over which Gilgamesh was said to have ruled, was depicted in the epic, making the discovery particularly amazing. The presence of homes, gardens, and fields, together with an incredibly sophisticated system of canals, led archaeologists to refer to the location as Venice in the desert. In the remains of Ashurbanipal's library, thought to be one of the earliest libraries in human history, from the 7th century BCE in northern Iraq, an English historian and archaeologist by the name of Austen Henry Layard discovered a discovery that changed history. There, he discovered an old clay tablet that was thousands of years old and covered in an intriguing writing that he was unable to decipher. Layard questioned who had authored this screenplay and what it said. Despite how amazing the finding was, it was merely the beginning. More than 15,000 pieces of identical tablets with the same enigmatic text were discovered there in the early 1850s. These tablets were returned to the British Museum, where researchers spent decades attempting to translate them by working backward and attempting translation using other ancient tablets inscribed in languages they could understand. Finally, in the 1870s, a man by the name of George Smith brought about the breakthrough. Smith, who was born in 1840, quit school at age 14 and began working as a banknote engraver. Despite his lack of education, he was fascinated by news stories about mysterious, incomprehensible artifacts discovered in Iraq that were older than any previously known examples. Smith steadily taught himself ancient languages and became conversant with ancient written scripts by visiting the British Museum during his lunch breaks and free time to explore its collections. A job offer was made to the peculiar young guy who had been hanging around in the museum archives since 1866. They advised him to start with the 15,000 pieces discovered by Austen Henry Layard if he wished to become a translator. Smith labored for many years before the writing on the tablets finally started to come into focus. Smith was startled to discover the basis for an amazing tale when they did. The tablets included a chronicle of a long-ago flood that destroyed all but one man and his family and wiped out mankind. It sent shockwaves through Europe and the rest of the world when Smith presented his findings to the Society of Biblical Archaeology in 1872, a presentation that even the British Prime Minister attended. Many academics and theologians proclaimed that this ancient flood story proved the veracity of the story of Noah in the Bible. Smith continued in 1875 by releasing complete translations of all he had learned. He had started to transcribe the oldest narrative ever recorded, the mythical tale that would later be known simply as the Epic of Gilgamesh, though he was unaware of it at the time. The complete Epic of Gilgamesh narrates the remarkable story of Gilgamesh, an ancient Mesopotamian monarch who controlled the region of modern-day Iraq many thousands of years ago. It tells the story of his rise to power as a dictator and how the gods tried to correct him by giving birth to Enkidu, a challenger. After the two men battle to a draw, with neither of them winning, they get close and embark on a series of adventures that are extensively detailed in the epic. After Enkidu passes away, a grieving Gilgamesh spends the remainder of his life trying to discover the meaning of eternal life, with the epic once again recounting his many experiences. It is a remarkable piece of writing that, according to academics, had a significant impact on the development of the epic literary genre throughout history, influencing works like the Iliad and Homer's Odyssey. But when the translation of the narrative crept out, it was the depiction of Gilgamesh, the amazing traits of the mighty king, that captured people's attention. He was supposed to be 1/3 human and 2/3 heavenly, since he was the offspring of a human man and a deity. As a result, he was bestowed with superhuman strength and endurance, as well as extraordinary intellect, and possessed a tremendous physical size, reaching 17 feet tall. Gilgamesh is referred to in the tale as being unsurpassed in all things. But it went beyond that. Gilgamesh was mentioned in the narrative in a line that said, "He explored everywhere the seats of power. He knew the totality of wisdom about all things." The pursuit of knowledge has been something that has propelled people ahead throughout history. The epic claims that Gilgamesh reached the end of the labyrinth and attained the highest levels of knowledge about everything. When considered as a whole, Gilgamesh's traits were what made the 2003 tomb find so potentially seismic. Simply said, consider the buried mysteries that may be discovered if archaeologists were able to unearth his tomb and peer inside. Was Gilgamesh truly a giant with a 17-foot-tall skeleton living in his tomb? However, if the grave of Gilgamesh were to be uncovered, what evidence of his totality of wisdom about all things, knowledge gained as he searched for the meaning of eternal life, might be found there? Of course, they are precisely the kinds of secrets that anybody in the world would pay just about everything to get. Why has the United States invasion of Iraq been a topic of discussion among academics, historians, and regular people over the last 20 years? The official government narrative at the time that Iraq and its leader Saddam Hussein were concealing WMDs has subsequently shown to be an utter fabrication. The nation was not a part of the 9/11 attacks. Consider how the US military quickly established a garrison near the Gilgamesh site after invading the nation. In the process, they sent key people from ABC News and the BBC, as well as scientists who had been dispatched to cover the results, home. The news item abruptly vanished from the top headlines of the world's media. But as the weeks and months went by, weird reports from the region started to surface, with witnesses saying they had seen US military personnel excavating into the earth and taking objects from the location. What secrets were given to them, and what would happen to what they took if the US military truly did uncover the tomb of Gilgamesh and take everything away from it, including the body of the great king? The tomb of Gilgamesh was not the only location where unexplainable events occurred while the US forces occupied Iraq. The renowned National Museum of Iraq is located in Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. It is regarded as one of the most significant collections of items from human history on Earth, and is home to manuscripts, sculptures, coins, and other antiquities dating back to the dawn of civilization. Surprisingly, and despite being informed by a group of historians and scientists before the invasion that the museum was the single most important site in the country, the US forces left the museum unsecured for days after taking Baghdad. Tens of thousands of rare items were stolen during this period by hordes of civilians who stormed into the site. The president of the International Council on Monuments called the shocking lack of protection provided by the US military for the museum a crime against humanity, and at least one major media outlet said that the looting was on par with blowing up Stonehenge. The shocking lack of protection provided by the US military was strongly condemned by the international community. Yet the tale only became worse as the days went by. Numerous eyewitnesses said that before any robbers reached the museum, special US military personnel broke in, removed whole vaults full of antiquities, loaded them onto large trucks, and vanished. Could it be real? If so, what exactly were they taking away? Where were they transporting it to? Finally, the US government agreed to send a team to inspect the location made up of experts from the CIA, FBI, and US Immigration and Customs Services in response to outcry from the worldwide community. Colonel Michael Bogdanos, a Marine commander and attorney who also had a degree in classical studies from Columbia University, would serve as the group's leaders. Strangely, it looked like the thieves had abandoned the most priceless treasures, such as the world's best collection of cylinder seals and tens of thousands of antique gold and silver coins. Why did the thieves not steal the most priceless items if they had broken into the museum's subterranean caverns? If they knew what they were looking for, what exactly were they looking for? Some know the solution. In the 1920s, strange tales about the discovery of a mind-bogglingly sophisticated piece of ancient technology in Iraq started to go from government to government across the corridors of power throughout the globe. It was said to be a Stargate, a kind of gateway that let humans move from one far-off place to another. Although it would seem impossible, Iraq was used to hearing these kinds of tales. The area's first occupants, the Sumerians, are described in ancient scriptures as having interacted with gods known as the Anunnaki. These gods imparted great knowledge and technology to the Sumerians, thereby starting the modern human species. Some people think that these Anunnaki were ancient alien visitors to Earth who visited many thousands of years ago, rather than being gods at all. The key is that if the Anunnaki, a group of extraterrestrial visitors, actually did visit Iraq at some point in the ancient past, it makes the possibility that they may have left behind evidence of their sophisticated alien technology less improbable. Governments all around the globe believed that it was very likely that Iraq would have an old Stargate in the 1920s, which prompted the majority of the major powers to send agents there to look for the vanished technology. Some people think that the 1941 conflict between Britain and Iraq was only a cover for a conflict between British and German interests for possession of the Stargate. However, no Stargate was ever formally discovered, and gradually the concept lost favor with the public. That was the case up until the 1980s, when new reports started to circulate that Saddam Hussein had found the Stargate and was genuinely studying it and trying to make it work. It wasn't until late 2002 that a caller, posing as a military insider, explained an American radio program. He said that Iraq had definitely collected items from the crash site and was actively working to reverse engineer the extraterrestrial technology. The caller said that the US administration thought Saddam's scientists were on the verge of making a breakthrough, and that they needed to be stopped before they did. The US attacked Iraq a few months later. Could this have been the real driver for the Iraq War? Could the items the US military took from the National Museum of Iraq before allowing thieves inside have been reverse-engineered technology? Perhaps the US administration was not lying about its goals after all, and weapons of mass destruction was a code name for extraterrestrial technology. That is all for this video. We'll be back soon with another informative video. Don't forget to like and share this video. To keep exploring ancient history together, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Until next time!